Well, good evening. Welcome everyone to our regular board meeting for the month of October. Appreciate you being with us. At the beginning of our meetings, we'd like to start with a moment of silence and ask you to join us, and we'll start right after that. Please join us a moment of silence. Amen. Thank you. Ms. Leroy, are you ready to introduce a student that leads us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and we'll do our pledge.
I'm proud to introduce Ms. Addison Airy. She's a senior at Seneca High School. Addison is our student body vice president right now. She's very involved in Rotary Interact, as well as the National Honor Society and Beta Club and Young Life. She also has a part-time job at Starbucks in Seneca.
Oh, wow.
In all of that, she has maintained a 4.9 GPA, and she plans to attend the University of South Carolina next year and major in entertainment management.
Well,
Ms. Addison Airy.
well, Addison, thank you. Y'all join us in the pledge, please. Addison, we'll follow you.
Attention, salute, pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Addison. Appreciate you being with us. On our school highlights tonight, we have two principals that are new to their position anyway, and Ms. Leroy is going to go first from Seneca High School, and Mr. McDowell is going to go right after her for Seneca Middle School. We're glad to have them with us. So, Ms. Leroy.
Tonight, we wanted to present to you all our after-school program at Seneca High School and at Seneca Middle School. At Seneca High School, its nickname is called Bobcat Central, and at Seneca Middle School, the nickname is The Den. And both of these programs have been, I can't tell you how instrumental in boosting our graduation rate. So, without further ado, I'm going to let these ladies tell you how instrumental it has been. Brittany Tebow is at Seneca High School. We have borrowed her from New Hampshire. She's been with us for three years now. She is a probability and statistics teacher and an AP stats teacher. She's a sharp young lady. And also to talk about the DEN program at Seneca Middle, we have Stephanie Shepard, who has taught self-contained special education at Seneca Middle for several years now. Ladies.
Hi, I'm Brittany Tebow. Our programs are paid for through the 21st Century Grant. And basically what we do after school is we provide our students with a meal, and then some academic time and some enrichment time. So the academic time, we are pre-teaching, reteaching, and reviewing. There is more reviewing going on than anything else. But when we can pre-teach and reteach, we definitely do that. So through that time, students are getting caught up on their work. They are definitely, their focus, it's very structured time. Their focus is to maintain their grades or improve their grades to help boost that graduation rate. For our enrichment time, we have several different groups that participate. So we have the band, the volleyball, football, and basketball are all participating right now. So they do their academic time first, and then they do their practice or their games afterwards. For our general education group, so our students that are not involved in any of those groups, we play different games. We play cornhole. Today we're playing darts and Uno. Those games that we play are really our hook to get our kids involved and get them excited. They walk in, they say, all right, where's my food and what game are we playing today? They don't care about the academic time. They know they have to do the work before they can have the fun. But that the hook is great, and they are always asking what else we are doing and what new things we can play. We have a short little video of what our students have to say about our program. You just need to sign in.
Well, Market Central, I think Market Central is fun, because like you activities and stuff, I think it's helpful, get your work done. It's fun, you can make up work and all that.
What I think about Bobcat Central is pretty fun. Everybody gets their work done, gets their grades up, math, whatever you got. And yeah, just keep your grades up and you'll be good.
Bobcat Central is fun, you get to play activity and you can make up stuff with class, and you can make up stuff, you can work for like your project for other classes also.
And that's it for Bobcat Central.
And at Seneca Middle, and we are the DED program, and we are a 4-year program. This is the first year of a new cycle of 4 years. And we have a grant for $617,000 over the next 4 years. We provide bus transportation home, a complete dinner meal, which I will tell you was bigger than their lunch. And it serves 80 students daily. We have a before and after school portion. The before school portion is mostly used by our 6th graders to help them organize their day and finish their homework and make sure they're ready mentally and emotionally for the day. And then the after school program is more about focusing on helping them reteach skills, not necessarily as much homework time, but more to get them ready for the next thing coming up in their classes or to prepare them to reteach. And then we also have engaged at the enrichment time, and this is our time to prepare them to be citizens and to make sure that they have the soft skills that you need to be a good citizen later in life. We do visual arts, financial literacy, we have culinary arts, we do mind and body, so we're trying to reach the full student. And we also have a video to show you some of the things that we do in our program. It worked earlier, sorry.
If you switch accounts and let her sign in, I bet it'll work. So go down to the bottom and put use another.
I know,
account.
but it's fine.
There you go.
Yeah, I think you gotta do
I
the
didn't
whole
type in
thing.
the whole
Yep,
thing.
you didn't sign in with the whole.
goes around music coding. Arts is a fun and energetic way to try different things you've never tried before and learn different things that you haven't before.
I love my mind and body because we get to go outside and have fun.
You can see on their faces, if you watch the video, that they're excited to be there. It's not something that any kid dreads that I've seen, and I think a great deal of that is due to the atmosphere, the environment that Ms. Shepherd has created. You got to have a great leader, and she's not only a part of the leadership in terms of the teaching, but also in the framework and helping get the money and do the things that she and Al have worked on in the past to try to ensure the success of the program. Honestly, this summer when I would transition to this job, I was scared to death that he kept saying it's just a little, it's not official yet. And I kept saying it's got to be. I got to know if we're going to get this or not. Because I have been in some very challenging environments in my past principalships in North Carolina, even in Georgia, but and there was never a great remedy that was wholesale and effective and had so much impact on so many. 80 kids is a lot of kids. That's a high percentage of our kids in our building, and they need to be in it. It's not like we don't have challenges. We do, but it's amazing to be able to be prescriptive and address some of the real needs. Things I want to talk about just real quick. One was, again, I mentioned her, but enthusiastic, student-centered, site-based leader. It's kind of like a principal. If you don't have a strong principal in the building, it's hard to have a strong direction and mission. And I feel like that she is very supportive of children. Never seen her tired, never seen her not smiling. She's full speed ahead every day with this program, and I just love watching it and being a part of it. Access to diverse resources and exploratory opportunities unique to normal classroom activities. Y'all saw that was bacon and asparagus. Our kids never tasted asparagus. You know, many of them, they thought someone tastes like grass. Well, I get that. I used to think the same thing. It's pretty good to me now, though. And another thing was enough time allotted to capitalize on small class size. And I mean, provided in this program, you have 10 or 12 kids in an environment. You have that sometimes in the school environment, rarely, but you have the time's more flexible in this program. You get to meet them, work with them, do some individual things with them that when you got 25 or 30, you can't do. So that's a very important part, I think, of this. And this is something you don't think about a lot, but exposure to highly interested adults. Those folks that work in this program are full speed ahead, and they're there because they want to be there during a time of day that would otherwise be spent in front of a TV screen or on unstructured computer activities. And I think that's as critical. If they're not going to be down there with us at Seneca in the afternoon, they're going to be somewhere. I just think this is a tremendous opportunity to take advantage of some things that are real and will make an impact. Clear and effective assistance with answering questions and completing homework assignments with certified teachers. They have them to themselves there every day for a couple of hours, which is unusual. And maybe most importantly is the access to free transportation that ensures participation. That's the thing that's always seems like it throws a wrench into something, is if you can get them there, you can help them. That's a lot of money, and there's rarely a time when you get that much opportunity to transport kids. I love it. It's awesome. I can't believe we got four years out of it. I'm excited about it. That's what I'm talking about.
Thank you, Dal. And thank you, Ms. Leroy. Appreciate y'all being with us.
That's one of the things that it helps us to have a grant writer. So I know they would echo this, but Ms. Dodd has done a great job because these are competitive grants that we're having to seek. School districts all across our state are trying to get these, and the Seneca area has really benefited from that. So kudos to the staffs at Seneca Middle and Seneca High, but also to Ms. Dodd for helping secure those grants. It's a good thing.
Good. Thank you. Okay. Next is celebrating successes. Dr. Thornton, I'll leave you back up.
I want to just mention one thing that most of you are aware of, because I saw you there that night, but October 2nd, we had an all-county chorus concert that was really positive experience for our students. And that's something, we've talked about it before in here, but our performing arts classes, it is really special in our district that we allow students the opportunity to leave class for an entire day, go to a common location with peers from other schools, and just spend a day doing what they love. And they have to, of course, try out for those and be of the quality needed to be on an all-county chorus or orchestra or band. But we celebrated the all-county chorus concert on October 2nd, and it was just a tremendous event. So that is one celebration I have. And then I just wanted to mention, these are, Ms. Gibson's really celebrating this, but we're trying to get feedback on potential of a modified calendar for a year and a half from now, not next summer, but the next. And that was quite an undertaking to make sure that each family only got one vote, because we had to filter out families with multiple children so they didn't get multiple letters, and we actually sent it through the mail and had a little QR code on the letter so each family would get one vote and that kind of thing. It was quite the undertaking. So I want to brag on Ms. Gibson, Ms. Missy Gibson in Steve's office, who's not here, but multiple people in this office spent, I don't know, if you calculated the man hours last week, it would have been quite an undertaking. But they got that out, and we're hoping to get feedback that we can share in probably November with you about the calendars. And then Ms. Simmons and her team got advanced ed survey, so we're asking for a lot of information from parents and students over the next couple of weeks. But she just published the surveys for our advanced ed process, and we'll be getting feedback from parents and students on those different forms of you know, just giving feedback on how things are and that type of thing. So we'll be getting that, I think, through October 29th, maybe. And we'll have a lot of information to share with our advanced ed team, but ultimately with you as well on how things are going in the district. So good work over the last couple of weeks, and things seem to be going well.
Good. Thank you. And do we have anyone sign up for public comment? No one.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. I didn't get a chance to sign up. My name's Alex McBride.
You need to.
Sign over here.
Well, I'll come up to the mic.
Yes, sir.
Let's let him. And if you'll state your names. So.
Sorry for the interruption. My name's Alex McBride. I'm almost an antique to this county. I moved here when I was 8. I've been here 29 years. I'm familiar with Coach Hanvey, as I know him, and Miss Gibson here from church. My wife and I, we just wanted to, we've talking with as many people as we can. Our youngest son is autistic, and we have some school concerns with him with his aid. He's been going to school since he was 3. He started with a PIP program. He's now in kindergarten, and throughout the first half of last year, he had an aid that was allotted to him, a certain amount of time, of course. And with that aid, he was on task 80% of the time. We understand that it was maybe a funding thing. We understand, you know, obviously there's a budget on things like that. So the aid was kind of pulled away from him, and he dropped to 20%. And you know, with the teachers that knows him from previous years, being autistic, he's gotten familiar with them. So sometimes if he disappears, the teachers that he has now knows these are certain areas that we look for him in. I also would like to brag on the, what's the tracking thing he's on? Project Lifesaver. He's got a tracking device. That way he can be found with it, because he's a runner. That way he can be found within 30 minutes as allotted. But the aid is the biggest concern for us right now. Like I say, 80 to 20% is a significant amount. So I've talked with several people. I've had a little one-on-one with Senator Thomas Alexander. I've talked a little bit with Mayor Dan Alexander. I'm friends with him per se, and they told me a few other places to go, but excuse me for the uninformal where we left early from West Virginia this morning to see the mother-in-law to make this meeting to let our voices be heard for our son. So if anything, y'all could do to help to, again, I know, budget's a big thing, but we just, we love that our son's going here. The James and Brown's the best school in the upstate. People's got, they're just about whatever school, but we've done a lot of research. The PIP program, James and Brown is the best in the upstate, no doubt. So again, just anything, that could be helped, the 20% on task now is starting to affect, it puts him in a sense to where he wants to kind of shut down at home, things like that, from kind of having a bad day at school. Miss Nikki Sheriff, she kind of works with him just a little bit now. And, if maybe she could be allotted a little more time with him, that would be great.
I suggest Ms. Simmons can get your information and how you can talk to each other.
Yes, sir.
And she's a assistant superintendent for curriculum, and
okay.
She'll follow up
Excellent.
with you.
Thank you very much.
Be sure you're getting everything you should.
Thank you, sir.
Do well. So
All right,
if y'all
thanks.
could get together and before you leave,
Are you
be
gonna
sure
stay
you
the whole
got
time?
phone
Are you
number.
gonna stay the whole time?
I'm
Are
sorry?
you gonna stay the whole time?
Yeah, how long does it?
This one shouldn't be too long
Yeah, we'll be 30 minutes.
at the most.
Thank you very much.
And thank you. Okay. Okay. We need a motion to approve tonight's agenda for October 15th regular board meeting.
Mr. Chairman, make a motion that we approve the agenda for the October 15th, 2018 regular board meeting.
I'll second that.
Anybody second? Anybody see anything that needs addressing? Hearing none, all in favor? That's unanimous. Approval of the minutes. Exhibit 1 is September 10, 2018 work session minutes and September 18 regular board meeting minutes. We get a motion to approve those as presented.
Mr. Chairman, I move the September 10th work session, September 18th regular board meeting minutes be approved.
Motion and a second. All in favor? Unanimous. And action items, Exhibit 2, approval of the 2019 board meeting dates.
And these are, again, we had to switch to the calendar year, so these match up with that. And they basically match up with what we have now, second and third Mondays when possible, one time in the summer months and one time at the last 2 months of the year. And there's also the summer graduation time in there, and then we have our board retreat in there as well. So.
Okay. Any questions, Ms. Hanson? Do I have a motion to approve?
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the 2019 board meeting dates.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor? It's also unanimous. Next, policies recommended for tabling. We discussed.
We've got a, sorry, we've got a calendar.
Oh, I got skipped the calendar.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you can't do that. I'm getting a lot of calls.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
This is a calendar for the upcoming school year, the 2019-2020. And as I told you when we first did it, we sent out the options. We talked to parent advisory about it, but it really doesn't affect the parents a great deal. The big difference was the two options. Option 1, which you see here, has 5 days at the beginning of the school year before school starts for in-service. And option 2 had 7 days, which is similar to what we did this year. Again, the schools voted on it, and it was almost 2-to-1 for option 1. But some folks liked having the extra day there. Some like it spread out throughout the, rest of the semester, and then, of course, we're always gonna have a work day at the end. The part that kind of didn't work out as well with this one is the June 20th. We'll go, exams will be 2 days into June, but we'll live with that and do what we have to do. Graduation, again, as I told you, will be set for May the 30th on this calendar option if you choose to do that. And I just gave you the one that the majority of the schools voted for.
Anybody have any comments, questions? Any motion to approve?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the 2019-2020 school calendar that's been presented.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any other comment? Hearing none, all in favor? It is 2. Now we'll go to recommending policies for tabling from last week.
And as I mentioned to you, this is not a recommendation to do away with these policies. It's just putting the brakes on them a little bit. This policy for graduation requirements, we're just not quite ready from a state level, I think, to get this officially approved. So we're just asking that it be tabled for probably a couple months, maybe 3 months, 4 months, and then, March timeframe, we'll probably bring it back when we have a better grasp of what the state's going to do. The other one is the suicide prevention policy, and it's kind of the same thing, except I'm not going to blame the state for that one. That's really more of our recommendation, because we've got a team of individuals that are working with just kind of a recommendation for a comprehensive, not necessarily a policy, but a comprehensive program for addressing mental health in our district, which this would certainly be a part of, and we want to let them finish their work. I think they were meeting sometime 26th, so the end of this month they're meeting again, and probably by January we'll have recommendations ready from that group, and then we'll be ready to make sure that this policy is consistent with the recommendations they make. So again, just a desire to kind of slow play these 2 policies a little bit. And I asked that it be official on the board agenda, just because I didn't want people to wonder, if they looked at last month's agenda and they saw that those policies were passed on first reading, and then they came to this month's agenda and they saw, why were those 2 policies not there? I just wanted it to be clear what we were doing, so when they come up later, people will understand what we're doing.
Okay. And we don't have on our agenda the numbers, but.
Yeah, it's if you click on Exhibit 4, which online it is, there are hyperlinks in there so you can get that. We'll make sure in the board minutes that we list those 2 policies when we send them out. So when we do the minutes, we'll have those.
We get a motion then to approve recommending tabling these 2 policies on second reading.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the recommendation of administration for tabling the policies.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any questions, comment? Hearing none, all in favor? Unanimous, and we'll table those till a later date. All right, then property reversion.
This is me again. This is the property that is located on the campus of Blue Ridge Elementary School, that when that school was built, the school board and school district got into agreement with the city of Seneca about a potential location for a new library. With the county, sorry. Yes, right, with the county, sorry. And it was about 5 acres, not quite 5 acres. That has fallen through, and in fact, I read in the article in the Journal about it that they now think that they're going to build on the same location as the current library when they get the funding to build a new library in Seneca. So
hope we see it.
Well, I hope we do too. But there was a reversion clause that if they weren't going to use the land in a certain amount of time, that they basically give it back to us. And so this is the county doing that. In fact, they'll be voting on, or they've already voted on theirs. We've got it ready. If you approve, we'll get it signed, and then they'll do the closing and the land transfer and the deed work, and we'll have that property going back to part of the Blue Ridge
campus?
Campus,
Okay.
yes, and we'll decide if we're gonna use it for something else later.
All right, good. Do we have a motion then to approve the property reversion for property at Blue Ridge?
Mr. Chairman, I move the property at Blue Ridge Elementary be transferred from Oconee County, reverting to the school district.
Second.
A motion is second. Anybody else have questions, comments? Hearing none, all in favor? It is unanimous. And then transfer of funds.
Yes, sir. As we were discussing with the county, the setting of the millage for debt service last month, we heard that they would like to have a more robust fund balance. And one way to do that is to raise taxes, which we did not want to do. And the other way to do that is to make a transfer from our general fund balance to the debt service fund. And that would be a one-time transfer, and we're asking for $400,000.
$400,000. All right. Do we have a motion then to transfer $400,000 out of our general fund into the debt service account?
Mr. Chairman, I move we accept the recommendation of administration to transfer the $400,000 from the general fund back to the debt service.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions? Comments? All in favor? That too is unanimous. And then policy revisions, if we can do these, I think most of those we could do as a group by each exhibit. I think if y'all want to highlight anything, but second reading approval of Exhibit 7 is policy revisions. This is in title changes only, titles of individuals.
Titles of individuals within the policies, right? So
For ADF, District Wellness, GCOA, Evaluation of Instructional Staff, JII, Student Concerns, Complaints, Grievances, and KF, Community Use of School Facilities. And we can get a motion to approve those on second reading.
Mr. Chairman, make a motion that we approve on second reading policy ADF, District Wellness, policy GCOA, Evaluation of Instructional Staff, policy JII, Student Concerns, Complaints, Grievances, and policy KF, Community Use of School Facilities.
Second.
A motion and a second. Anybody else have comments, questions? Hearing none, all again in favor would be unanimous. Exhibit 8 is policy revision, section A. This is policy AC, non-discrimination and equal opportunity.
yeah, and this was just, right, the legalese being more specific, which again, we talked about that. It's not really, in my opinion, anything that significantly changes the policy. It's just much more specific on definitions. Again.
We also had to change the name to the Director of Human Resources for Mr.
So,
Leroy's position, and then change my title. But you'll see that one coming up quite frequently. When I get to mine, the part about the age where they specifically say 40 and that, so it'll be quite frequently appearing in my part too.
Do we have a motion to approve on second reading?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we approve on second reading policy AC, non-discrimination, equal opportunity.
Second.
Motion second. Any other comment, questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Two, then it's unanimous. And Exhibit 9, these are section G policies. GBA is open hiring, equal opportunity. GCE slash GCF, professional staff recruitment and hiring. GCEC, posting, advertising of professional vacancies. GCO-R, evaluation of administrative staff. And GCF, support staff hiring. We get a
These all come under the HR part and how we do our procedures. Again, one of the big changes was the statement about discrimination sex, age, 40 or older, et cetera. Talks about our grievance policy. There's several legal updates to GBA at the bottom of it. Then when you get to GCEC, talking about posting and advertising, we will post jobs, and it tells the minimum description you give and the minimum number of time or amount of time that you post that in the HR posting, and it also has the legal references in there. Same thing with hiring professional staff, so it's certified and professional. Hiring the best qualified person, giving folks already in the system the opportunity to advance depending upon what skill set they have and what they're able to do. So it's pretty straightforward. With that, I'm happy to answer if there are particular questions. All the legalese. Evaluation of administrative staff. They marked out the part about the first-year principals. Our first-year principals now go through the principal induction program. So they go to Columbia multiple times for their sessions, and then the second year they're on the same evaluation as the other principals within the district. And we do half our principals on the full evaluation each year, like we do secondary on the full evaluation 1 year, so middle and high, and then that same year we do elementary on the partial, which is on instructional leadership and principal professional development, their own self-professional development. So we flip-flop those rather than going, you could do it every 3 years, but we choose to just flip-flop it every other year, and they go through the partial, the full, the partial, the full. Now, if someone needed to go through the full, that's well within Dr. Thorson's right to say that, and we would do that, and we have done that with folks. So that's part of that big change.
Okay. Anything else?
I don't think that there's anything else in there that would stand out to you. The last part, support staff hiring, GDF is kind of a repeat of the second policy where we talked about professional staff recruiting and hiring, and again, making sure we get the correct language for making sure we are not discriminating and we're looking for a diverse workforce. And the legalese.
Do we have a motion then to approve on second reading policies out of section G, GAB, open hiring, equal opportunity, GCE/GCF, professional staff recruitment, GCEC, posting, advertising, professional vacancies, GCO-R, evaluation of administrative staff, and GCF, support staff hiring.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the policy revisions in section G, the numbers that you just went over.
Yes, okay.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All right. Any other comments, questions? Hearing none, all in favor? It's unanimous. Next page, Exhibit 10. Policy revisions. This is section 1. Is this Ms. Simmons? All right.
The physical education policy, IHAE, just talks about our district's vision for our PE programs and the requirements that we have there. The only changes were in the legal references for that policy. Everything remained the same there with the program and the exemptions to the program. Health education, IHAM talks about our districts and boards' vision for health education. There are just a few additions there. The addition of opioid abuse prevention was added to the list. And also the use and abuse of alcohol, drugs, and tobacco was added in, and the impact it has on our community. Other than that, the rest of that policy remains the same. And then the administrative rule for graduation requirements, just a few minor changes there as far as excluding keyboarding on the list of subject areas required for graduation and the credits.
Also, the requirement of students taking U.S. citizenship and immigration tests as part of their U.S. government class. And then the students have to earn the required prescribed units. The only other thing that was added on the second page was adding to State Board, adding of education and S on the end of regulations. Other than that, everything else is the same.
Okay, thank you. If we could get a motion then to approve on second reading, policy IHAE physical education, IHAM health education, and IKF-R graduation requirements administrative rule.
Mr. Chairman, I make a recommendation that we approve on second reading, section IHAE physical education, IHAM health education, IKF-R graduation requirements and administrative rules.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other questions, comments? Hearing none, all in favor? It's unanimous. And then lastly, Exhibit 11, policy revisions from Section J. And I think, Ms. Sim, are those yours?
Those are mine.
Oh, all right.
Those are mine. So, release time for religious instruction policy JHCB. If you'll notice, in red toward the bottom, it says district faculty and staff may not promote program attendance through encouragement, coercion, or other means. Specifically, employees of the district may not be instructors for release programs. So if we let someone go during their lunchtime and that, a non-instructional time, then they're going out to a different person, not someone associated with the school. And then transfer credit was added to make sure the district may accept related transfer credits without individually assessing the quality or subject matter of the class when the transfer is from an accredited private school. So if a student chose to go take something at OCA, since they're accredited now, we would take that as a credit if they did that. If they went to some of the other ones that are smaller and not accredited within our area, then obviously they could not get credit for that. So we will evaluate those based on the accreditation status of the site they get the credit from if they choose to go that route. And there was a federal case, actually Moss versus Spartanburg County, that was added to that legal part. Student records, the big thing on the second page, parent, legal guardian may submit a request in writing to the district that such student information may not be released without prior written consent of the parent, legal guardian. And then there's an opt-out letter, the principal sends a letter, and then there's an opt-out part that the parent sends, and it's basically to eliminate us sending it to military recruiters and institutions of higher education. We don't just give them out to anybody. I mean, we're very strict about who gets those addresses and that information. So,
Steve, just for information, if you go back to the non-accredited school.
Sure.
If a student takes the course in the non-accredited school, is there any way that they could get credit? Suppose they did and they said, okay, we can't sign off, the school district can't sign off on it. Could an accredited private school sign off on that for the, I'm just wondering.
I think the way I interpret it is that it's not like a math or something where we can give them a test and we can say, okay, you've got the base knowledge of that. I would have to do a little research. The way I read it is,
it says here, the district may accept the transfer of credits without individually assessing the quality or subject matter if it's from an accredited
but he's saying
school.
it's not from
but it
accredited.
doesn't say that we couldn't take it. I would assume this means that we would just have to assess the quality of the subject matter. So even if it was from an unaccredited institution, we could give credit. It'd be very similar to homeschooling. When a family homeschools, we do make sure that what they've been learning is appropriate and on grade level, but once they've completed the next course in the sequence, we go back and award credit for anything they took at homeschool, and homeschools are certainly not accredited. So that would be, I would think that would be.
But what kind of class are we talking about? Would we have a way to assess all of them.
Well, I just don't think this change closes that door, is
Right,
what I'm saying.
right.
So I think we would still have that possibility.
I don't know of any situation.
Right, yeah, I was trying to think of what class it may be that we wouldn't be able to.
I mean, if you look right up above it, it says elective credit. It says the district will evaluate the classes on the basis of purely secular criteria prior to awarding credit. In other words, I think we could if we felt like it was.
What if I take a class on New Testament?
It could possibly be a history elective if we felt like the content was.
And for those of you that seem like we're going pretty quickly through these, we went over each of these last week in our work session. So this is just a summary of what the highlights are from last week before we vote. But we have a work session that we go over these items they're presented, and gives us time to ask questions and clarifications, and then we vote the next week, which is this meeting. So, okay. So do we have a motion to approve the policy in section J on second reading, JHCB release time for religious instruction, JRA student records, and JRA-E opt-out information for students in grades 9 to 12?
Mr. Chairman, I move policies of section J, JHCB, JRA, and JRA-E be approved on second reading.
Have a motion and a second. Anybody else have questions, comments? Hearing none. All in favor, be unanimous. The only thing we need next is then a motion to go into executive session for personnel items, employment recommendations, and changes.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we go into executive session for personnel items to include employment recommendations and changes.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Thank you. Thank y'all for being with us. That concludes the regular part. If we have to vote on any items out of executive session, we'll vote after.